The renegade Jedi Cal Kestis. You have made quite a name for yourself. Sabotaging weapons depots, disrupting supply lines, flaunting this for everyone to see. The failed coup on Norset. That was your doing, wasn't it?
What do you want, Senator? A confession? You already know I've been working with Saw Gerrera.
Before I deliver you to the Emperor, you will lead me to the remaining Jedi.
I can't. It's just me.
No use resisting. I'll find out one way or another. Sometimes all it takes is a speech.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 47 of the video game podcast PlayStation Pals. I am your host Nick, and I'm joined by the papyrus to my sands, John. Now, John, did you add all the PS Plus collection games to your library?
Oh yeah, I did that day one. No, I can't play them, but I have them. Yeah, and you're a fool if you have not done that yet.
Well, you only have, as you're listening to this, if you're listening to the day we're recording, you only have 4 days. It's May 9th is the last day, so...
Yeah, but I can't believe Sony's taking them away from us. Like, oh, that's so ridiculous. Like, I cannot believe it.
Yes, if you remember our rant in response to IGN talking about it. Just make sure you do it. Just make sure you add them. That doesn't mean you have to play them now. Doesn't mean you have to download them. Just like the PlayStation Plus Essential games you get each month. Just make sure you add them. And then as long as you have an active PlayStation Plus subscription, you can play them.
I did see a weird little article today, too, that said, like, they added Persona 5 back to it, which is just interesting that they took it away only to add it a week before it goes away again. I don't know. But, so, if you, for some reason, added all the games after Persona 5 got removed, it's back, so make sure you go snag that one as well.
Yep. And it's a pretty good game.
Yeah.
Pretty good game. All right, so we do have another jam-packed show for you, so we're going to get right into it. And this is how the show works. John and I both bring 3 things to talk about. It can be a video game we're playing, a topic, a news item, an email to PlayStationPalsPod@gmail.com, or a Twitter DM at PSPalsPod. Follow us there if you want updates on the show. And I'm going to kick things off first with this week's big release, and that is Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Happy May the 4th be with you.
Yes.
Belated,
yeah,
of course.
It's been a great week of Star Wars content.
I'm watching it right now.
And the game came out last week. I have played it and I have beaten it, so I have a lot of thoughts on it now. Yes, I had a very lucky weekend where both the weather and my partner being out of town for 3 days kind of led me to really destroy that game.
Be a big piece of shit.
Yeah. You don't feel too great playing games that much, but it was fun. I'm not going to lie. So Jedi Survivor, it's the big sequel from Respawn and EA. It is the sequel to 2019's Jedi Fallen Order, which I must say is very impressive that Respawn was able to release a game in 3.5 months.
Years.
3.5 years. And, 2 of that we had COVID, so... It is, I don't know what's in the secret sauce over at Respawn because they have a lot more projects that we'll get into later in the show. But
Respawn and Insomniac, they have something that nobody else has. So.
Yeah, they have whoever's manages their games is incredible. Yep. I do quickly want to speak on the bugs and the issues with the game because that seems to be a lot of the discussion on PlayStation 5, more so on PC, but PlayStation 5 as well. I really didn't experience very much bugs. There was like frame rate issues, or I had one hard crash to the desktop of the console, and but for the most part, I didn't have any issues. I'm not as sensitive to that stuff. I'm not like, ugh.
That's a 55 frame rate right there. I can tell.
Yeah, I was playing in performance mode, and for the most part, I loved it. In fact, I had beaten the game maybe 30 minutes before the big patch came out. So it has been patched since.
Good.
And it is a very large game. I will speak to that quickly. This is 150 gigs.
Yeah.
And that is nothing to scoff at. That's like, Call of Duty levels of.
Does it seem like there's 150 gigs worth of stuff there, or does it seem like Respawn maybe just isn't great at compressing their files? Because I know Fallen Order was like 80 gigs as well, and when you see a game like Horizon Forbidden West that has the big open worlds and is gorgeous, that sits around in like the 60 to 70 range,
right.
Just seems like something's a little weird, but it also is truly next gen as well, so that might have something to do with it.
Yes, yeah, it is a PS5 only game, so it is very pretty in that regard. Speaking on the story very briefly, it kind of picks up 5 years after the events of the last game. Cal Kestis is kind of, doing his best to stop the Empire from expanding, and kind of after a brief mission on Coruscant, goes to visit his friends, specifically Grease on the planet Kobo, and that kind of serves as your hub for the whole game. He has set up a cantina on there, and crazy coincidence, there's more to that planet than meets the eye. There is some High Republic ruins on there, and that kind of leads the story down its path. I'll keep spoilers very light here, though I do think the overall story is a little weaker than Jedi Fallen Order. I think the characters themselves in this game are just top-notch. One thing Jedi Survivor really knows is what makes Star Wars great, and it covers that throughout the story. So
Got that Toad guy. I heard everybody loves the Toad
Turgle?
guy. Turgle?
Turgle.
Not because with Torgle, the dog from Final Fantasy 16.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And it is very neat. This cantina becomes your hub, and as you're exploring the world, this is a third-person action game. You kind of can recruit people, and then this cantina, which is pretty run down and beat up, kind of starts getting full of life. You get a DJ, you get a bunch of interesting characters.
Is it Sice Noodles?
Nice Noodles?
Sice Noodles?
Who's that?
That's the long-lipped singer from Return of the Jedi.
No,
Okay.
none of that species. I think Turgle might be that species, but I don't know.
Okay.
But no, this is a robot DJ, and you get a bunch of interesting characters. You get Kai, who gives you kind of bounties in the game.
Sice Noodles.
Yeah, I remember the character. You get a guy named Scuba, who kind of helps you collect fish. It's another collectible in the game, and it's just nice to see like the town kind of like organically grow as Cal helps out people all over the planet, that they kind of make a home here, including some Jawas and other Star Wars characters, and that's great. I kind of like that, because the Skies of Arcadia did that. You kind of could recruit people to be on your ship, and some of this you kind of recruit and help people to just build up your town, and they give you quests and whatnot. And then the gameplay itself, this game does one of the most brilliant things ever, and that is keep every traversal ability from the last game and gives it to you right from the start.
Yeah.
Double jump, wall running. You have the grapple within 10 minutes of the game, and that kind of lets them just go wild with the game design. Like the game feels so good that you can be wall jumping up a wall and screw it up and kind of just cheese it so you can start wall jumping again, and all that feels good. And
Nice.
a lot of good uses of the Force to kind of manipulate things in the environment. It all feels really, really good. And
Yeah, it's one thing to like take a character like, Samus, right, and who
Yeah.
like starts every game with no abilities, but
Yes.
like to try and
I got missiles again.
try and
Yay.
do that with a Jedi would be kind of weird. Be like, yeah, you forgot everything.
Yeah.
That was the craziest thing. So that's good. That makes sense.
Yeah, and this game and this game is huge. Like Kobo, the first kind of big planet you get on, is gigantic. There are mounds. There's so much to explore, so it's really nice that you have. I mean, there are abilities you learn later in the game, that kind of Metroidvania-esque things that you won't be able to reach to at all times, but it does have its like we got to come up with a term for it, like in Elden Ring when you open the door and it's like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Or Breath of the Wild, that moment where the game kind of just goes, oh my God, like look at all that I'm going to do. I see.
Yeah.
And the same thing here. It kind of starts out as a typical Jedi Fallen Order level, and then you get kind of to the open world part and you're like, holy shit, and there's a big space station you can see in the distance and all kinds of...
Is it that one?
Yeah, that's it.
Sorry for the listeners out there. I'm just pulling up screenshots and giving you absolutely no value right now.
Yeah, but I mean, look at that screenshot.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. It's like, oh my gosh, look at all the things that I'm going to be able to see and do. And sure enough, the game allows you to do it. And Kobo is one of several planets. There's kind of 2 big planets and a bunch of a few smaller ones. But the big planets are really, really impressive. And again, the traversal and everything else is great. And then combat gets a little bit of a refinement. You still have all your abilities there. You have all the stances from the last game, so you can be a single lightsaber, dual lightsaber, or the Darth Maul lightsaber that you got later in the Jedi Fallen Order. Those are all back right off the start, and then you get 2 more stances on top of that. I won't spoil all of them, but I will spoil the one that I love the most, and that was just having your blaster and your lightsaber at the same time, because it was just a good mix of range. And there's a good, if you can parry in the game using L1, but if you could hit triangle when you're in this stance, you do a close range blaster shot, and it's just satisfying.
Nice. Okay.
And I know John's not going to like to hear this, but when I was playing this, all I could think about is like a Soulsborne game, because it has a lot of the same mechanics. You trade Estus flasks for stim packs. You have meditation points instead of bonfires. When you rest at these places, all the enemies respawn.
If you die, do you go back and reclaim anything?
Yeah, they got that mechanic. I didn't die too often, but they do have rancors in this, and they can kill you in one grab, which is annoying. I hate one
shots are always shit.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, they grab you and just eat you, and it's an instant death. So you have to go back, and you can get your XP and experience points up to that point again if you can reach your body without dying. So,
okay.
But it's not as nowhere near as hard as a Soulsborne game, but it does have a lot of those mechanics where you could just be anywhere, and all of a sudden you're in a big named boss fight. Even if you fought this specifically type of enemy like a droideka. The droids from the Clone Wars, you can run into one that has a name and has a full health bar. So
it's so funny when it's like, I know exactly what you mean when you say and they have a name, but in video games it's always, oh shit, he's got a name. he's gonna be something special.
Yeah. And in this, their health bar, they have the boss health bars. They fill up the whole top of the screen as opposed to being attached to the character as you attack it. And yeah, it's a crazy that Respawn got this license and created this franchise with it, and is doing an astounding job with it. I cannot recommend this game enough. It's just one of my most anticipated games of the year, and was this is by far one of my favorite games of this year. Not the favorite. Well, you looking at me weird?
Well, it didn't come out this year. Is the game that you have above this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's Persona 5.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But it is still fantastic. I love that they give you all kinds of customization in this, not just the ones from the last game, your lightsaber and your outfit. You can have different hairstyles and different facial hair. So you can have a mullet in this with some mutton chops.
I saw that.
Or a handlebar mustache. They really lean into the really silly designs for Cal, and I kind of like designing my Cal to be just tired and exhausted, so he looked like a guy that lived out in the woods for like years and is just coming out of hiding. And just an overall great game, including definitely one of my highlight boss fights that's going to be at the end of the year. There's an encounter midway through the game that's just, again, PS5 shows off the PS5 and why this is a PS5 only game, but it's just so fun and bombastic. It's something out of like an Insomniac boss fight when you're like on rails and you're fighting a boss like through worlds and stuff like that, something like in Rift Apart. This is on that level. It was just awesome that I actually clapped by myself in the room because it was that good.
Nice.
So I don't know, John, did you have any questions about the game? my review is it's a 4 out of 5. Like,
4 out of 5?
Yeah, it's I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but
I mean,
it's really good.
Initially my first question would be, does this do anything to move the needle on you wanting to play an actually good Souls game, or are you just the mechanics that present are not the reason you enjoyed this at all?
I don't hate the mechanics, that's for sure. Yeah, that is a good question. Probably. It definitely leads me closer to wanting to give Elden Ring maybe a decent shot.
I'm telling you, if you go into it, you have to do a little bit of legwork in the front end, but you can make that game so it's not overbearing at all. And you can at least explore, what makes that game specifically, but also that series, really special. But yeah.
A Star Wars paint job on Elden Ring is definitely a thing that carries it for me too. Like, I won't deny that.
So if you were riding a what's a rideable creature in Star Wars? A Wampa? Is that what?
Well, they're Nikos in this.
Okay, so if you're riding a Nico and instead of a sword you had a lightsaber and I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. No, but other than that, man, for me it's. I never beat Fallen Order. I did boot it back up, in anticipation to kind of see what you thought about this game. And, if I came back to work and you're like, I'm giving you this game, you're going to play this. I'm like, okay, well, let me at least start it. And, it's one that I think I would enjoy a lot more than I think I would if I actually just took the time to do it. But, I have to be willing to put that stuff ahead of the games I already want to play. And so it's just, if I can find, because, like, I'm pretty close to getting done with Resident Evil 4. We're not bringing that to talk about today. I'll probably talk about it next week. But, as soon as that's done, I got Tears of the Kingdom, I got Elden Ring. So it's just like, I don't know if I'll ever be able to. But it does at least seem like a game that just based on the visuals, like, it'd be just fun to just walk around these environments. Knowing how big a fan you are with Star Wars, it's just always... if a Lord of the Rings game came out of this quality, I would hope that you'd be like, oh, I hope it's good for you, right? And if I came back hearing that it is that good, that's encouraging. So shout out to Respawn, shout out to that team over there for turning out a high quality project quickly. Like you said, the bugs seem to kind of take over most of the conversation initially, but the fact that it received an 86 still with that level of bugs and things that people had issues with, I think is a testament to the quality of the game. And if you are tangentially into the Star Wars universe, I think it's a must play probably. At least from somebody who's just kind of across the aisle from you. You say?
Yeah, as of right now, we don't get very many Star Wars games, but as we'll get into later, that is on pace to change. So cool. But again, this is if you want to experience Star Wars, it's May the 4th. Just pick this game up. You'll love it.
We need to start a database of our reviewed games.
Sure.
I think we need to keep track of all that stuff. Because we're at what, like probably like 5 or so, 6.
Yeah.
Let's get that shit written down before we start forgetting. But cool.
Yeah. So move on.
All right. So
here we go.
Big news this week, guys. This is a PlayStation podcast. You are listening to PlayStation Pals. However, when industry things happen that kind of supersede and go beyond the realms of just our little bubble, we have to talk about them. Mm-hmm. And with the release of Xbox's newest first-party title from Arcane, Austin, Redfall, we have to talk about this game. This was kind of being propped out as being the kind of starting point, I think, for Xbox rebounding a bit, for them to start releasing their first-party games of high quality at a good cadence and really start to reinvigorate the brand and get the diehard Xbox fans out there, excited about the future again.
Get some Game of the Year candidates out there. First game since Halo Infinite.
Yeah,
this is Forza Horizon 5 in 2021.
Yep, this was a game that was originally had a release date of last year, got pushed out to be worked on a little bit more, caused Xbox to have an entirely vacant 2022 with the exception of Pentiment and some smaller titles. So a lot of writing on this game, and unfortunately, the reviews for this game have come out shockingly low. Right now it's sitting at a 61 on OpenCritic, which is crazy. I never thought in a million years that this game would be anything less than maybe like a 75. Arcane is a studio with with a great track record, makers of Dishonored, Prey, high quality titles. And so for a game to come out like this, it just begs the question of what is going on at Xbox, and we need to kind of talk about it. So Phil Spencer was courageous enough to go on the Kind of Funny Xcast this week, where he kind of took some questions, not softballs either, but just to kind of get out in front and talk about the state of it. And so I wanted to go through some of the things that he said and just how we feel about the other side of the aisle here. And I want to start off, because I think I'm starting to build a reputation on the show of being a bit of a ranter, and I will wholeheartedly champion that. But I do want to say off the top that I believe Phil Spencer seems like a nice guy. I give him lots of credit for going on these shows, for taking it on the chin, for being the guy in charge and acting like he's the guy in charge, whether it's for good or for bad. So first and foremost, I want to applaud him for that. I think he typically means well. I don't get a nefarious spirit out of him at all. I think he's a smart guy who's probably deserves to be where he is. But at least from my point of view, I feel like something's got to change over at Xbox. He's been in charge since 2014, which I kind of view as the beginning of the start of the downfall for the Xbox brand. And while he's done great things like Game Pass, some of these good services, the games simply aren't there. And based on some of the things he's saying, I worry, if I was an Xbox fan, I would be kind of worried about the future as well. So just kind of going off of some of the quotes that he had on this show, I want to start off here. Phil said he rejects the argument he hears from people that if Xbox just released great games, then things would turn around for them and Xbox could catch up in the console market, saying it's simply not true. What do you think of that statement, Nick? Because for me, that is simply unacceptable. When you are a console creator, when you have a history with creating games like Halo, that literally that IP jump-started your lead into the Xbox 360 generation, which I know is not apples to apples anymore. But the reason that, for me, that PlayStation is as successful as it's been is because they took the time and effort to build the teams that were necessary to get the products out that elevated that platform ahead of its competitors. And if Xbox says that that won't make a difference, why play there? What do you think about that statement?
Well, I'm in a very unique case because what he's saying is wrong just with me. Little backstory, I was an Xbox 360 to Xbox One gamer. I have a gamer score of over 100,000. Humble brag there. Yeah. And I was very much in the Xbox ecosystem. In 2017, in the lack of Xbox exclusives, when Sony released one of the great franchise, Horizon Zero Dawn, I bought into PlayStation when that game released, and I have been playing PlayStation games ever since. So if I did that, what's to stop anyone else from doing that? If Microsoft had, let's say they released games at the same cadence as Sony and were just as good, people would move for sure.
It's not going to be overnight.
No.
But it's going to. That's what you have to do in these long-term businesses. Like Microsoft is not an overnight company, right? Mm-hmm. So they have the manpower. They own over 20 studios. They have the money. Like to just say like we can't compete with Sony is a little shocking, I think.
and I mean that this would be in a vacuum too, right? Like even if Xbox was releasing good titles, Sony would still be doing the same thing, right? So it would be hard, but they would get growth. They would definitely see more numbers in Game Pass, more consoles sold, more active users on their platform over Sony's. That would happen. I just don't. That's where you start. Like you have to have that. Like what good is Netflix without without Stranger Things or without all its marquee titles? Same thing here. Like Game Pass needs marquee titles. It is nice that they get brand new games right when they come out, but they need big games to do that. They need, like we said last week, before we even knew this, like a lot's riding on Starfield. Holy shit, the whole kit and caboodle of the whole year is riding on Starfield now.
Phil's job, I think, is riding on Starfield too.
And Phil You mentioned like that he started in 2014. Well, he did inherit the biggest sinking ship. Xbox One launched in 2013 and was really the downfall of their console market share. But he's also had 10 years to right the ship. And just like a football coach that takes over a losing program, you should get a lot done in 10 years. If you're not a winning program or, seeing growth, then you got to get out. That's it.
Yeah, and I think, I think like a lot of what he's saying, I get it. Because, he goes on further to say that Xbox lost the worst possible generation that they could have lost, which was the Xbox One PS4 generation, because that was the generation that people started to build their digital libraries. Nick and I aren't digital guys. I have some. Nick has even fewer, but still probably a couple. But it is harder and harder and harder each and every day as we continue to get more invested in these ecosystems to switch over. But he continues to add things like, there's no world that Starfield is an 11 out of 10 and people start to sell their PS5s. I agree. But it might cause people to buy an Xbox. So it's just like, I don't...
Myself included.
Yeah, Nick included. And so it's like, to me, the big takeaway I kind of get from this whole situation, the way that Phil's talking about this, is Microsoft doesn't really care about the console. I think we've kind of known that, since they've been pushing Game Pass. I don't think they're in. Yeah, they simply do not want to compete with Sony. He said in the interview, he said the green version of there's no way for Xbox to win by trying to be the green version of what the blue guys do. He says they have to take a new path, which is why they're pushing things to Game Pass and xCloud. I think that's a cool strategy, but you can't then come in and say like, come play here. This is the best place to play games. Like, if your strategy is to go Game Pass, that's fine. But I do think, and I've been saying this from the beginning, that it is a detriment to the quality of video games. I was reading an article today, Nick, about how movie studios are starting to make movies specifically for streaming services of a lower quality. They are specifically making these projects. Ghosted was one of the recent ones with, I think, with that Chris Evans Ana de Armas movie that went straight to Apple Plus. Yep. They knew it wasn't good. But this is a movie that they can put out to get onto a streaming service to keep subscriptions going. And I cannot imagine a scenario that Microsoft...
Is that Redfall?
Yes, I think it is. I think there's a scenario right now where it's like, look, we know we cannot make a Last of Us. What do we do then? If we can't compete, then what do we do? We know we can't compete with the Nintendo, just the amount of handhelds and shit they have out there. So what do we do? Well... we do have a great infrastructure, a great technology department with Microsoft. We flood into Game Pass as much as we can, which is obviously why they wanted to buy Activision Blizzard. But it should start to scare people. If that is what they're doing, at least from a first-party angle, you're always going to have third-party things come into play. You're always going to have Ubisoft titles flow in or whatever the case. But for Microsoft, a team that, again, owns over 20 different teams, just spent $7 billion for Bethesda, wanted to buy Activision Blizzard for $70 billion, I would worry what their intentions are, at least to just, gauge success. Is success for them releasing a 95 Metacritic game that, everybody wants to play? I'm sure they would love it, but I don't think that's what they're striving for. And for me, specifically, it's just sad. It's sad because when I think about every single great experience I've had in games for the past 10 years, yes, I have some one-off, indie titles, a weekend experience with this thing there that was fun. I have, something that's maybe more of a guilty pleasure. But when I think of everything, God of War, Spider-Man, The Last of Us, Uncharted, Returnal, these games just are simply not. It seems like they don't even want them to try and come there, and it's just. I don't know. I really worry just about how this will continue to shape the industry. Sony thrives when Xbox thrives. Xbox thrives when Sony thrives. That's how this shit works. And if Sony starts to see like, they're not even trying on the other side anymore, like, do they start to ease off the pedal a little bit? I hope not. I don't think they will. I think that Sony has created an ecosystem of developers that care about their products, of studio leads and studios that want to be the best, and so that's why I play there. But it was just kind of crazy to hear a CEO say what he was saying, and I know a lot of it can probably get taken out of context and things, but it's just. I'm tired of Microsoft kind of just being, like, hey, we're the same as the guys over there. At least that's what the general public perception is. Like, oh, thank you to the 20 million players that have played Minecraft Legends. It's like, yeah, but Phil, how many of those people just downloaded it and played it for an hour and then deleted it entirely? It's like they are in the market of just obfuscating numbers and obfuscating data and obfuscating everything. That I think there's a very, very, very valid reason that faith is at an all-time low of Xbox. And I think if they choose to stay in their lane, that's cool, but I just hope that they don't continue to try to, we're just going to buy everything. We're going to buy everything. We're going to buy everything. We're going to take things off the market so that, we can push more stuff out. But I'm rambling now. Go for it.
No, he was being very candid and honest, but he was also, like you said, being very defeated. And I don't know if this has to do with the CMA decision and having Xbox appear to be at a very low point as part of their strategy. Who knows? But as you said, if their strategy is to push for cloud gaming, it's way too early to be talking about it. It just the infrastructure is not there. Every few years we get, cell phones will kill the console market. Now cloud gaming will eventually kill the console market. And yeah, that is probably true, but we're a very long time from that. Like it's not going to happen in PlayStation 6 and Xbox Series, whatever the next consoles are. They'll be around, but maybe after that things will start to push. But to have that attitude now and not try to and disrespect, having that attitude now while disrespecting the people that currently have your console, who spent the $500 on the equivalent, the Xbox Series X, and not hyping them up and getting them excited is kind of a bummer. Like it's like he's being too honest and too defeated. And I know before he went on here, Microsoft is having their E3 not E3 conference this year on June 11th. So they will have that moment to drum up excitement for their platform, for Game Pass. But yeah, I don't get where he's coming from, unless like I said, it's all a long game to be like, CMA, look at me, and we're weak, we're wounded. Yeah. We just released another crappy game.
We're definitely in third place. Yeah. Like, we have no avenue to beat them.
Well, yeah, which is the frustrating part the whole time, is because this is why you're in third place, because you keep releasing games that are very subpar. Yeah. Like, you can't even say we had a good game in almost 2 years. Like, that's a AAA game.
Yeah, I took the time to write down the first-party titles that have been released since 2014 for both platforms. And I'm not going to read them all, but I'm going to try and pull out some of the best. Like the highlights from Xbox in Phil Spencer's tenure: Halo 5, State of Decay, Quantum Break, ReCore, Gears 4 and 5, Dead Rising 4, Sea of Thieves, Crackdown 3, Bleeding Edge, Flight Simulator, Halo Infinite, Psychonauts, Grounded, and Redfall. Okay?
Those are a lot of bad games.
There's a lot of bad games in there. Now, here's Sony. Infamous Second Son, Drive Club, Bloodborne, Journey, Until Dawn, Uncharted: The Nathan Drake Collection. I should say Journey was a port from PS3 to PS4. Ratchet & Clank: The Remake, Uncharted 4, Resogun, Astrobot's Rescue Mission, Last Guardian, Neo and Neo 2, Horizon Zero Dawn, Uncharted Lost Legacy, Gran Turismo Sport, Shadow of the Colossus, God of War, Spider-Man, Days Gone, Death Stranding, Dreams, The Last of Us 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Astro's Playroom, Demon's Souls, Sackboy: Big Adventure, Miles Morales, Returnal, Rift Apart, Forbidden West, Gran Turismo 7, Last of Us Part 1, Ragnarok, Call of the Mountain. And PSVR was launched in there as well. And this isn't trying to be the fanboy. I fully understand how it could come across like that. I get it if that's how we sound right now. But it's simply a call to arms that I think Microsoft realized very early in last generation that they were going to get trounced. And they had to course correct, and they came up with Game Pass. And while it is a good thing for the value of the player, I worry long term, and I think that's where we're at. And they need to do better. They just simply need to do better. And if I was Phil, man, I would be at Bethesda every single day checking on the status of Starfield, because that game has to be... I mean, even Fallout 4 released at an 87, and people are like, "This is okay." You know, that game has to blow people's pants off because they're under a microscope.
I mean, it has the potential to do it, but if you were going to ask me which game was going to be more buggy and have all the issues, I would have said Starfield over Redfall. And now that we got the reverse, I'm very much afraid for Starfield. I mean, it has been in development for a very, very long time. It is also, that's why we tout when Respawn makes a game in 3.5 years. It's been, 8+ years since the last Bethesda game?
What was it, 76? Fallout 76?
I don't count that because that was not Bethesda proper. But
yeah, it was.
No, that's the Texas-based studio, Bethesda.
It wasn't Bethesda Softworks or Software?
Well, they have 2 studios. One is the main one that's I believe in Canada, and then the other one is...
So Fallout 4 is the last one?
Is Fallout 4, yes.
Okay.
And whatever the last DLC was for that.
Yeah, well, Fallout 4 is 2015, so yeah.
8 years. So, we were looking at the Xbox subreddits. They're obviously very down. Not only the Redfall thing, but then everything Phil is saying.
Faith is not great over there right now.
Yeah, and understandable, and it just feels bad. As much as I want all these guys to come and join the PlayStation team and enjoy their games, it's like, can Xbox just get a one win this year?
Yeah.
I know Hi-Fi Rush was considered a very good game, and I very much wanted to play that on PlayStation, but you need more than just that. That's not really a AAA game. That was a $40 game. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, I think we can end here. Video game players are very much a "what have you done for me lately" crew, right? If Starfield comes out and it's great and they have a great roadmap, a great showcase. He said on the podcast as well that he thinks he said this before, finally getting ready to release a big AAA quality game every quarter. He sees things lining up. They have so many games announced: Avowed, Contraband, Perfect Dark, Indiana Jones. They even have Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5 for some reason are officially announced. They need to do it, and they have a road to recovery, but I don't think that road to recovery can exist without great games. That's everything that it comes down to for most people. There might be some people that are just like, I play here because my friends play here. For some reason, that sentiment still maintains for some people, but...
Yeah, Starfield being good, maybe having another big fall release, because Starfield is early fall, so having maybe a October or November game that we don't know about.
Could be Hellblade. He did mention on the, I love to read into everything, because that's what I think that's what we both do, as being into this industry so much. But he mentioned, we have a lot of great games to look forward to. We have, this year we had Redfall, we have Starfield coming out, we have Hellblade 2 coming out, and then a bunch of others. And he kind of said it in like it was being grouped in with those. So okay. I think that will be the next one after it. But I don't know.
Yeah, Ninja Theory is a very good developer.
Yeah, we said that about Arcane.
Yeah, that's true too. So we'll see. But we'll know in a month from now really what Microsoft tends to do for the next year, and hopefully they can, they can turn the ship. But as you said, Phil Spencer he's on life support. He is.
Like I said at the top, good guy, seems to mean well. The fans love him for some reason. But I'm pulling for you, man. We really are, because like I said, all rising tides bring ships up, or something stupid, whatever that fucking phrase is. High tide raises all ships, or something. So
sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Hopefully, no more Microsoft stuff.
No.
for a minute.
No. All right.
2 bad weeks.
Let's get to something fun.
Yes.
All right. So last week we started building our top 50 games of all time list for the PlayStation Pals, and so we had some good discussions. But Nick and I were able to hammer out the next 10 that we wanted to go through to you guys, and so we're going to kind of go through those quickly here, talk about them a little bit, and move on. But I will admit this is a pretty John heavy 10. There are a couple games here and there that one of us feels so passionately about that we just have to have them on the list. We'll start with one that is definitely all for me, but it's a game that would be in the running for the most played game of all time for me. It devoured my college time with friends. Perfect couch co-op game if you're into this genre. And that game, It's Rock Band. I was a big Guitar Hero guy. When Guitar Hero first dropped, I was there, not day one, but I remember going to a Best Buy and playing the demo and just immediately loving the rhythm thing. And that kind of built off of, I was originally a DDR guy too. I like music-based rhythm games, and so when you're able to put that into something like Guitar Hero, I was immediately hooked. I loved it. Couldn't get enough of it. Bought 2, bought 3. And then when they had the idea that we're gonna come out with Rock Band and there's a drum kit, I was like, oh fuck, this looks cool. And but is it gonna be fun? And for me, it was absolutely, one of the most fun experiences I could have playing video games with my buddies in college. Doing a stupid drum solo on this plastic kit. I was known as Guitar Hero John throughout the dorms because I played. I was playing on expert everything. I don't mean that to be a humble brag, but I was. I could do Through Fires and Flames on Guitar Hero. I could beat Everlong on expert and drums, and so I loved it so much that I will always remember this moment. The first time I came across a drum kit that I could play in real life after being on expert in Rock Band, I was like, I wonder if I can do this. And I sat down and I could do it, and it felt great. And this doesn't mean I'm a drum guru or anything, but it was just a really solid title that kind of understood what video games can be, and it's just a dumb, simple time with scrolling little colors that you just hit at a specific time. But I'm a music junkie and I'm a game junkie, so it's just a perfect fusion for me.
Now, is the original Rock Band your favorite? Because there's quite a few Rock Band games.
There are. It obviously only ever just comes down to the track list. I didn't do enough research to know. I think it is. Mm-hmm. But 3 started to really pump out a ton of DLC. And so, you really could start, and DLC was always $1. It was 99 cents for a song. So,
right.
Being a broke college kid, you could always make room for $1 here and
right.
there. So I probably had, the most amount of time in that one. But, I in everything, usually give a lot of credence to the first of something. Just because
right.
I do value innovation and just paving the way for future things.
Yeah.
So had to throw the first one on there, even if it might not be my favorite. It deserves the spot.
It was an interesting time period of it just defined an era of gaming. Was the Rock Band versus Guitar Hero, which was funny because Harmonix initially made Guitar Hero, and then this whole they got bought and Neversoft took over Guitar Hero, and then Harmonix came with Rock Band, and it was always I think it was every October it would be one of them versus each other, because they became yearly franchises.
Rock Band Beatles, Guitar Hero World Tour,
yeah,
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and it was like a fighting game. It was what's the track list? That's what they would just battle over, and then that would determine the better game. But it definitely defined the late aughts and early 2010s was this plastic instrument battle.
Yeah. I will admit those things were a bitch to carry around, and I broke the fuck out a lot of those pedals. So I had to get a metal plated pedal so that I didn't break it. But
Jesus,
no regrets.
You're so hardcore. Do you still have Rock Band?
I have the kit. I actually went to Disc Replay and bought Rock Band 2, all of them, I think, for Wii, because I have a Wii U, and my in-laws had I should ask. They had a Rock Band kit, and so I brought that.
Because everyone did at one point.
Right. Got those for $2, and then set it up for my son to play one day, because I was like, just hit some.
Yeah.
And I should bring that out again, because he's actually coordinated, not a 3-year-old little munchkin that doesn't know how to do anything except be a monkey. So but Rock Band, man, is I will always have a special place in my heart for Rock Band.
All right, so moving on to game number 39. This is actually from the same time period as Rock Band. We're going to be taking you to Rapture, and that is the video game BioShock. Now, BioShock was kind of a reinvigoration of first-person games. Not only did it have the cool location that is Rapture, that was supposed to be a utopia, but something went horribly wrong, but brought in the plasmid, so you kind of was a first-person shooter, but you also had these other abilities, and just so much iconography from that game is very distinct. The Big Daddy, the underwater cities, the Little Sisters. Did you harvest the Little Sisters? Did you free them? It's probably many would consider one of the greatest games of all time.
Yeah.
Not just our favorite game. And yeah, it's a test of time. That's why we're so excited for Judas coming up, is because of what this game did, how it made you feel, and a great twist,
Yeah, would you kindly?
Yeah.
I mean, I think Rapture definitely has a very strong case for being the most iconic video game setting in history. Like, you look up lists of that, it's always there. So, right off the bat, you're hooked to it. But one of the most striking art styles and vibes that you get from a world is this creepy dystopian thing. And, it's just... From top to bottom has some of the best just environmental storytelling. The audio logs and everything is so good. I do remember when I first played it kind of being confused as to how to play it, because like you said with the plasmids, I was just like, no, I'm gonna shoot everything. I just want to. I was like, I don't have any fucking ammo. Where's all the ammo? Like, and I kept running. I think I just remember like running around with a wrench and trying to like beat everybody with a wrench. And I was like, well, this is stupid. And then I kind of realized like, oh, there's a little more depth here than I was giving it credit for.
I can use the environment to kill enemies with plasmids. There's a puddle on the ground, I can electrocute it.
Yeah.
And that'll create additional damage. And
yeah,
just the great art design on the enemies and everything. It was just, it was one of the most perfect games.
One of the greats. I think it got a 96 on Metacritic or OpenCritic. So, definitely deserves to be there. But... All right, this will be a quick one. Number 38, it was, because we've talked about it a decent amount on the podcast, it was number 3, I believe, of my game of the year last year, and that's indie game Undertale. I love this game. It's one of the most unique games I've played, one of the most charming games I've ever played. Music is great. Characters are great. It's not afraid to be silly as can be. I think I told the story. I love that dog that you just keep petting it and his neck grows more and more until his neck goes out of screen, and then you keep petting him and his neck starts to U-shape down the other side of it. And it's just like, it's little things like that you cannot help but smile ear to ear while you're playing through it. It's understandable to be immediately turned off by just how it looks, and I get that, but I would urge every single person out there, give it a shot. You can go through the game killing everybody. You can go through the game not killing anybody. Unique battle system. It's just a pleasure to play and an experience that I think everybody should at least give a shot. It's quick too. It's like 5-6 hours. It's not a lot, but
I need to get to it.
Yeah. Next time you see it on sale, you should definitely check it out. But
okay.
Yeah, Undertale.
All right. So moving on to game number 37. We are going to a Sony exclusive, and that is Gran Turismo 3. This is a John game, so I will let him discuss why it's so high on our list.
Have you ever played?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I appreciate it. I'm just not a big car guy.
Yeah. No, I think this game hit me at a perfect time in my life. I had recently broken my wrist in 4 places.
Playing Rock Band?
Huh?
Playing Rock Band?
Yeah, playing Rock Band. No, playing football. I got tackled poorly and broke my wrist. So I was pretty shut down for a bit. Obviously, I had the cast up to my mid of my bicep, so like I couldn't even bend my elbow for a good 6 months because the surgeon screwed up my surgery and had to go back in there. So I got a lot of time just sitting on the couch playing a game, and at the time I was playing Gran Turismo 3, and it created such a perfect loop for me, and just of addiction of, you get your small car, you win a race, you get money, you get a better engine, you go a little bit faster, you start winning that race, you win this race, you get this license, blah, 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 circle, 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 repeat until all of a sudden you're driving an F1 car dusting everybody, right? Or you want to have a Ford Mustang with... Sorry, that is a phone call from somebody. Or, you want to have 1,200 horsepower in your Mustang, right? It was... And I was like, I don't know, 13, 14-year-old boy, right, who's just like, do I like cars? I don't know. Maybe I like cars. Let's check it out. But, I sunk hundreds of hours into this, doing all the trials. I did some 24-hour races, which turned out to be like 2 or 3 hours. I would just sit there for 3 hours because I wanted to win, like one of the special cars you could win for doing some of these, where could only be one in those. And it's like, it's an F1 car. And like... just getting through a race finally and like seeing like the silhouette of the car and like, it's the F1 car, and I get so excited. It's good stuff, and I haven't really went back to Gran Turismo since. Like I have 7 and I want to give it a shot. I just A, need the time, and B, I kind of still want that wheel. I've heard the wheel really elevates it, but back in the day, Gran Turismo 3, I couldn't put it down.
Yeah.
All right.
What's next?
Another John game. Number 36.
Bullshit.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, I told you at the front, man. I think I just play more games than you.
I don't fight as hard as I should.
There's also that. This game is... If I could create my own list, this game would maybe be top 5. It's my favorite indie game of all time, probably. I've sunk probably close to 1,000 hours in it. It created a love for a genre that I didn't know I liked. And that game is The Binding of Isaac. This is I believe it's 2016 release. It's another one that is a little deceptive when you first look at it. It's top-down, 4-directional, like bullet hell kind of combat, right? You enter a room, there's a random allotment of enemies, you shoot these little tiers out, right? And you try and get them and move on to the next room. But what this game does that's absolutely so incredible, and I still to this day haven't found a game that does it quite as well, is the items that you are able to collect in the game and the way that they synergize and interact with each other is unlike anything else. This is a roguelike. You know, for those who don't know what a roguelike is basically a game where you're going to start at the same point every time, try and get as far as you can, or maybe even beat the game, where you get a random set of items, everything is randomly generated, random floors, random enemies. And so what the game does, it has, I think, over like 500 or so different items with all unique abilities. And not every single item interacts with one another, but every once in a while you'll get these two items that just do something together that wildly changes the game that you've never quite experienced, and all of a sudden you're just blitzing through floors and destroying enemies. And that's just such a fun feeling, such a good feeling, when it does happen, because it's not going to happen every single time. You're going to have these hard-fought battles where you're sweating it out every single room. You're really trying to maximize the keys and things you have. But when you go through it and you just get these God mode type runs, it's just such a good feeling. And it's probably the number one game out there on my list of like, I wish I had this platinum, but it's got such a ridiculous thing you got to do. You got to beat the game 10 times with like 15 different characters, and it's a lot. But The Binding of Isaac is just pure video game fun for me. It's exactly what I wanted. It scratches all the right parts of my brain. Unfortunately, I haven't really played it a lot lately. It kind of did something I didn't really like, where they kept updating the game so much that it almost lost originally what I liked about it, where there's too many variables now and too much variance, and it's there's too many hard things to do, where I need to go online and now look like it's very obtuse with some of the things you need to do to get to specific parts of the game. And I was like, I don't know if I'm willing to do this anymore. But like I said, I probably have about 1,000 hours in it, and I loved playing that game back in the day. So Binding of Isaac is one of my faves.
Okay. All right, we're halfway there. Now, for number 35, I don't think in your list, John, was Sunset Overdrive for Microsoft of games in the last 10 years.
I had it written down, but I didn't say it because it came out the year he took power, so it's like he doesn't, it wouldn't really be a him game anyway.
Okay. Well, fair enough. That Sunset Overdrive came from Insomniac, the makers of Ratchet and Clank, and I love that game. Sunset Overdrive is a great Xbox exclusive. So when we found out that their next game was going to be a Spider-Man game, well, holy shit, man. You knew it was going to be something really, really special. And sure enough, it was. 2018 Spider-Man is our next game. And I don't know really what more needs to be said. It's a perfect encapsulation of the character, one of the best feeling games to play. Taking the Arkham combat and applying it to Spider-Man, it just works. Recreating the city works. Bringing all the classic villains in works. There's not a bad thing to say about this game, other than it released in probably one of the biggest years of video games ever, so it kind of gets buried there. But, and then this year, biggest, most anticipated game for Sony right now is going to be Spider-Man 2, the sequel to it. So, not shocking that this game would make our list. It's just near perfect superhero game.
This one's a special one. I mean, Insomniac's always to me been just like very, very good at making anything fun. Like, everything they do is pure fun, and I don't think there's a better feeling mechanic in maybe any game ever than just swinging around New York City. Like, the ability to just swing and it's how smooth it feels and how Spider-Man reacts to what you're doing. It's video game perfection. I've played, as I've talked about on the show, probably 300 hours of this game with my son, and I'm just as excited for Spider-Man 2. I think it's going to be everything that made the first one amazing, and ratchet up to the nth degree. I mean, and me personally, I kind of think Miles Morales is even a better version of Spider-Man 2018. But being, again, like I kind of mentioned, I like to honor what brought it. It didn't do much different than what Spider-Man 2018 did, just a little more focused, but it's just top to bottom fun, good Ubisoft style open world done better than they do, with the traversal mechanics that make you want to go every single place. Like, who doesn't
fast travel?
No, who doesn't want to just swing around and run up the side of a building and whatnot? So Spidey is the perfect superhero to adapt into a video game, I think, and they nailed it.
Yeah, I believe the story was Marvel offered them, what character do you want? And they were just like, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. Marvel or Sony? Because Sony owns Spider-Man.
I think it was Marvel. Now that you said that,
yeah.
I'll get the story correct.
Sorry.
Maybe I'll bring it next week.
Idiot.
But I believe it was Marvel said you can do it.
I remember that similar story, which would only make sense if it was Marvel, because they own the superhero. Sony owns what? Spider-Man and Morbius?
Yeah.
That's what it is then. They just own the film rights, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Time to go back in time, Nick. I think one of the most influential games to both of our childhoods, at least I know for me for sure. Mm-hmm. This is the Blue Blur Sonic the Hedgehog 2 specifically.
It's funny that everyone is always like with games like these, it's like, what's your favorite game? It's probably the first one you played.
Yeah.
Like when people go, what's your favorite Mega Man? I was like, I'll always go Mega Man 4 because that was the one I owned for NES. And similar here, when I got my Sega Genesis, it came packed in with Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Yeah. So that was the game I played the most. People will say Sonic 3 is the best, but they're wrong. So...
Yeah, those people are wrong. Sonic 3 is the second best one. The first one kind of sucks.
Just
honestly.
play Chemical Plant. Yeah. It should have been the song today. We should have played Chemical Plant.
Yeah, I've only really recently, since at work we play the soundtrack every once in a while, I kind of gained an appreciation for the music in this game. It's every single track is iconic and is awesome, but I think this game plays very well to a younger audience. I don't know if if I played Sonic 2 today, I'd probably be like, I don't really quite get this. I'm moving so fast and I can't react to anything on the right side of my screen. What is going on? I'm missing so much. But that's the point. Like when you're a kid, you just want to go fast, right? And like and you get those boots and the music speeds up and you zip through the level and you start to kind of learn the ins and outs of the levels. It's just a great time. It's no Mario. I don't think if you were to like try and back in the day, the Sega Genesis versus the Super Nintendo wars was like about as visceral as the console was as there ever was. Sonic doesn't hold a candle to Mario, but he did single-handedly, I think, save the Sega console system, at least for a little while, because a lot of people don't know Sonic the Hedgehog wasn't a launch title for Sega Genesis. It kind of came out, I think, 2 or 3 years after the console was released and really reinvigorated that after it was getting just shit canned by the Super Nintendo, or maybe the regular Nintendo. I'm not great with that time period, but yeah.
You're a little young.
Yeah, I was a little young, but just pure nostalgia awesomeness.
Yeah, I love that game. It just holds a very dear place in my heart. I don't know how many times I beat it, but it's a fuck ton.
It's a lot. It's quick.
Yeah.
And I'm quick.
Yeah. All right, so moving on, we're on to 33. And a game is special when, Sony buys you immediately after the game comes out, and that game is Returnal. This came out in 2021. This is from Housemarque. It is a third-person roguelike. It is a game that introduced me to roguelikes. It is also a platinum trophy that I can hold over John's head. I think it's one of the big ones he really wishes he had.
Horseshit.
John has some
RNG
really good
bullshit.
John has some really good platinums, but I know he wants this one pretty bad.
I'm gonna get that platinum.
And it's just a great game. And I think the best part of it is it was one of the best uses of the DualSense controller on PlayStation 5. It has some of the tightest controls ever. You're never losing this game because of, the controls or some kind of input delay. No, they're so tight. You get so good at the game. I played this before I played Hades even. So it was my introduction to roguelikes, and it made me just fall in love with them, fall in love with Hades later. But Returnal is just incredible, and I'm really excited to see what Housemarque does next, if it is a sequel to this game. Like, booyah.
Yeah.
It'll be fucking awesome.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, because this was a major departure for that studio. Prior to this, they were pure arcade, like Resogun, Dead Nation, Alien Nation, Nex Machina, these things like this, where it's just you're just chasing high scores. And so for them to switch to a third-person shooter was, I'm sure, pretty nerve-wracking, but they were able to retain everything that made them special, from the tight controls to the bullet hell nature of it to just the atmosphere being amazing. I can't get enough of this game. I mean, it's one of the very few games that I think I would every once in a while go back to, even if I had the platinum, just because it feels so good. Mm-hmm. And they added the Tower of Sisyphus, and that's even kind of fun. It's just it's a floor, what do you call those, tower based, where you just try and get as high as you can. But I think, this game showed me that Housemarque is one of my favorite developers out there, just because I value gameplay first. And the story is there. It's weird. It needs some explaining.
Don't ask me what happened.
Yeah, it needs some explaining, but it's all about the way that game feels, and it's just really good weapons and different ways that you can kind of customize the way you want to play.
Yeah, and atmosphere, just the sound design and everything, the use of 3D audio.
Fourth boss fight? Awesome boss fight.
Yeah.
Great there. And it scratches that same type of Souls nature where, you get into a boss fight that you think you have absolutely no shot to win, and you do, and it feels great.
Yeah.
Love that game. Love that game.
All right, we can swap the last two.
Yeah, you take it. Go for it.
All right, so number 32, I really don't have to say much more, is Cyberpunk 2077, my game of the year last year, because I beat it last year, not because it came out. It did not come out to the best of conditions, very buggy, not delivering on a lot of the promises, but I think it got there. It has some incredible storytelling and some incredible characters, and the immersion and getting lost in Night City, the location in the game is just, I love that game. It was something else. It was a good surprise last year, just like Persona 5 was this year, of just, wow, this is one of my favorite games of all time. And it's still installed on my console. Phantom Liberty, one of my most anticipated expansions coming, so it had to make its place on the list, and I'm glad it is where it is.
Is CD Projekt Red, pound for pound, your favorite developer?
Right now, probably.
Yeah. Just like if you know that there's a game coming out by them, you're like, I'm there day one.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter.
Not teasing of a game that's coming that'll be on the list at some point is their other franchise. There's not very many developers on this list that will have multiple games, but CD Projekt Red is one of them. And yeah, their attention to detail, the attention to worlds, and telling, really good stories, which is what I want Bethesda to do, is get back to really good stories. That's what I hope for Starfield, because, the bar has been raised very high by CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, I mean, The Witcher did the same exact thing to Fallout 4, kind of exposed to oh shit, Bethesda's not the best at this anymore.
Yeah, so. I love Dragon Age Inquisition, but it came out 6 months before Witcher 3. After that, I can't.
This game sucks.
Yeah. It can't even hold a candle to it. So
nice. Yeah, I'll get there one day, man. It's installed on my console too. It's just it's kind of sitting in fourth place behind Resident Evil, Elden Ring, and maybe something else, and then that. I don't know. We'll see, but I'll get to it. All right. And then our last one on this 10, very, very, very special game to me. It started a genre, which, you cannot say about many games, and that genre is alive and well, and that's Dark Souls. Now, you could argue Demon's Souls did start the genre, and it did. I wouldn't even say that's really much of an argument, but this set the foundation for how this franchise was going to go moving forward, having a interconnected world where you're kind of exploring. All of a sudden, you take a path, and you're like, oh shit, I'm here. The feeling... how do I say this? Just the level design, everything that this team did with this game was so special to me. I fell in love immediately with the way that the boss battles were, where, like I've said many times, you think you can't do it, and when you finally do, your heart's pumping, you're so excited. Many times I've stood up and clapped and cheered and said, fuck you, and and beat the boss. But when you combine all of that with incredible world design, incredible amount of depth with the combat and things that you can do. Obviously they've built upon everything they made with Dark Souls into Dark Souls 2, 3, Bloodborne, into Elden Ring. It's all connected in a very, you can clearly see it if you play all those games. But once again, honoring where things came from. Dark Souls is, I will always remember buying that guide and just trying to see every square inch of that game, and I cannot believe I don't have the platinum for it. Maybe one day I'll go on like a Souls run and try and clean up some of that stuff. But Dark Souls is, like I said, man, it created a genre. It's huge. I don't think anybody would have thought that it would have latched on as much as it did, but your boy knew. I bought Demon Souls from, before it was even really a thing, like 2009 or 10. So always knew that was kind of the kind of games I wanted to play, and I'm still going real strong with From Software today.
Yeah. Soulsborne is a thing.
It's a big thing. Very, very big thing.
All right, let's move on. We'll continue our list next week.
Yay. All right. So Sony gave us a little sneak preview, Nick. Mm-hmm. They've seen a lot of success. Earlier this year, Emmy Show of the Year contender The Last of Us will be there at award seasons. Hands down, Succession is really fucking good too, but it'll win a lot. But we got our next tease on an upcoming Sony franchise that they are converting into film. That is Gran Turismo.
Third franchise this year.
Yeah. They're really pushing them out, man. Gran Turismo, Twisted Metal, they're starting to go hard at this. So they were able to show us, I believe it was like a 2.5-minute trailer, and just wanted to kind of go over quick impressions. Nick, what did you think of the Gran Turismo trailer?
I think when we talked about when they were making this, I think the same thing stands. Is like, if the racing and the shots are good, I'll be there. I'll happily sit through a 2-hour rag to riches, a little bit of observersity that we see in kind of a lot of these sports stories, and this looks exactly like that. I don't know how true it will be to the real story. I'm not too familiar with the actual story that this is based on. I know he definitely wasn't playing a PlayStation 5, which seems to be all over this, and the Gran Turismo 7, and the poster he's holding a DualSense controller, so I don't know how accurate it'll be, but it looks fun. I will definitely see it. I will not see it in theaters, but I'll check it out. It looks like it'll be a fun time. I like all the actors: Orlando Bloom, David Harbour. The big actors that are in this, and I have a feeling it's going to do pretty well. Mm-hmm. It's going to be pretty successful.
Comments and things, people are very, very high on it. It seems like everybody is digging it, but I think you hit the nail on the head. For me, it needs to nail the excitement of the racing and not focus on the gaming side of it too much. And
That's our thing.
Huh?
That's our thing, though.
I know, but so for instance, I wrote 3 lines down from this 2-minute trailer. Oh. Must be a new experience for you moving your legs. Okay. Hey, do you get extra points for that in the game? All right. This whole thing is insane, but out of the couch surfing nerds you gave me, he's the best one. It's like, all right, like, as long as that's not too much into this thing, like, I want it to be the racing, not like, I don't want it to focus on, this kid, now he's got the nemesis, Hopper hates him, David Harbour, from Stranger Things, Hopper hates him, he's gonna earn it, he earned it, now it's just like, I can...
you can name every story beat.
Everything that's gonna happen, and I typically don't get excited for things when that happens, but I really, really liked Rush, I really, really liked Ford versus Ferrari, I think cars lend themselves great to just a theater movie experience. I have my sound system. I'll hopefully be able to crank it up and really feel it. But it does seem like Sony, is putting the money behind this to make sure that, that games are a vibrant they're not what they once were in the movie space. I really truly believe, and I don't know if you might agree with me on this now. I don't know if you do, but I think the MCU is waning. It's still going to be around, but it's definitely getting smaller. I think. And the movie industry is very cyclical, right? Like at once upon a time, Hollywood was all about westerns, then it was all about rom-coms, and it was all superheroes and zombies. I think video games are the next kind of frontier for those large, the products that kind of turn into the big tentpole motion pictures of the year that earn a lot of the money. And I think Sony's very smart to be on the leading edge of that. And I personally would have rather, I was hoping when they announced Gran Turismo was going to be a thing that it was going to be like kind of a Top Gear style show where, maybe we check out some of these real supercars in real life and perform on them. But, at least it's very positive and exciting to see that they want this to succeed and that, they're really putting the resources and things into it, because I think they saw The Last of Us as incredible critical success. This could be an incredible commercial success. Uncharted was a commercial success. I think they're kind of doing it the right way. So, good to see. But I don't know. I probably won't be there unless if like the reviews come out amazing and we really want to talk about it on the show or something.
Yeah,
but
we'll watch it at home for sure.
So
everything's going to digital so fast that it'll be on a streaming service in 2 months after release. So
right. Directed by Neil Blomkamp, man, which of District 9, and he hasn't made very many great movies since, but I loved District 9 when that came out.
So yeah, it's good. All right, so with Jedi Survivor in our rearview mirror, I wanted to talk about our most anticipated Star Wars game, and we're just gonna pick one. Because there's only 6 of them. So I'm going to list off the 6. We don't know any details of it. Just everyone has announced it. One should be pretty straightforward. But so I'm going to list them off. John, you tell me which one you're most excited for.
Okay.
All right. So we have Respawn, who just did Jedi Survivor. They are also doing a Star Wars first-person shooter, which should be pretty good given their track record with Apex Legends and Titanfall.
Yeah, that's their bread and butter. Their Jedi Survivor was the weird project. Now they're going back to what they do.
Yeah, so that one should be pretty good. Yeah. We also have Respawn working with BitReactor on a strategy game. Now, BitReactor has not made a game before, but they are being led by a guy who worked on the XCOM series, so we don't know much about that.
Was this the one that they announced today? Or like
no,
okay.
No, that was a different one.
Okay, all right.
And I don't know about the one they announced today. I think that was rumored.
Yeah, it's not an announced. So, okay, anyway.
All right, we have the Quantic Dream Star Wars Eclipse. I'm trying to remember when that was announced. Was that at a Sony Showcase?
I think it was an Xbox Showcase.
Okay, maybe it was an Xbox Showcase.
Yeah. So what, slated for 2028?
Yeah. But
that's Xbox fashion.
Quantic Dream of Detroit Become Human, a lot of PlayStation exclusives.
Heavy Rain.
Yep. So you kind of know where that's going to be at. Yeah. The next one we've talked about before from Aspire. This is the Knights of the Old Republic remake. As reported by Jason Schreier, this game is in development hell. May never see the light of day, but it is a thing. We also have a project from Ubisoft and Massive, the makers of The Division. They have a Star Wars project. We don't know any other details than that they are working on. And then finally, we have a game from Skydance New Media. This is the studio run by Amy Hennig. They announced last year a Black Panther, Captain America game, but they also have a Star Wars project in the books. Seeing how they have not released the game yet, they also have a unproven track record. So, John, I gave you 6 games. If you were going to play one tomorrow,
sure,
what game would it be?
It would be Ubisoft's Massive game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it would definitely be that one. My love for Star Wars is not as high as some other people, but I do try to keep an open mind to it, but I don't necessarily want heavy Star Wars story. I like the original trilogy. I like Rogue One. I'm not so much into all the extended universe stuff. So I think the idea of something like Star Wars Eclipse looks super cool. If I was into Star Wars, that would really excite me to have like the high fidelity graphics that Quantum Dream does. It looks like it's going to be a dark, grittier story, which I think Star Wars probably has the potential to do very, very well. But when it comes to playing a video game and something in this universe, I just want the ability to visit a cool place with alien-looking environments, have cool abilities, and I was a big fan of The Division. I thought The Division was a ton of fun, and I don't typically like Tom Clancy games, but just like kind of the systems and combat that they had in that, I thought it was a lot of fun. So if you can kind of put make it more open world, because even though The Division was open world, it felt tighter than that because you're always on streets surrounded by buildings. So, if you can have like an open, gorgeous Star Wars system, or, I would imagine if it's Star Wars, it's not going to be one planet. You're probably in like a system and you can hop around. And so, the ability to do that with the makers of The Division sounds like it could be a pretty fun time for me.
Yeah, that is definitely one to watch, and I'm curious if that will be announced this year.
Yeah, and Respawn, I just don't particularly vibe with first-person shooters very much, but that one I think has potential to be the best of the bunch too.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with you on that, but I am going to choose the Knights of the Old Republic remake. That is probably one of my gaming black eyes or just holes in my life that I just have never played, which is crazy. It's considered one of the greatest RPGs of all time. The original was made by BioWare and peak BioWare, not BioWare now. So
like started peak BioWare, didn't it?
yeah, exactly. So, I played I think the first 2 or 3 hours and never finished it. So if they could bring that to modern consoles and bring what is considered one of the greater Star Wars stories outside of the movies to current consoles, that would be great, and I'd be all down for that. So
yeah, that'd probably be one that I'd be like, I don't want to play this, but damn it, I guess I'm going to because it's going to review well and whatever. And yeah, I've had friends that's their favorite game of all time, and unfortunately, it's one of the ones that I think is simply too dated nowadays to even go back to. Don't even try. At least you can if you want. I tried, it didn't work out. Nick tried, didn't work out.
Yeah.
So hopefully this figures out a path forward. I think it's interesting. As much of a lack of faith I feel like as Microsoft fans have for Xbox now, I have a very incredible amount of faith in Sony to push projects forward and give them things that they need to make it happen, because I think they don't want any type of reputational damage wherever they can help it.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh?
So, all right, final topic. We made it. So, it is May, and according to all these pesky Tom Hendersons and Jeff Grubbs and all that we are going to get a Sony Showcase. We haven't had a Sony Showcase in forever, since the infamous 2021 one, fall of 2021, where we got to see Spider-Man 2 and Marvel's Wolverine and the first footage of God of War Ragnarok. They haven't had one since. We've had state of plays, we've had the little 20-minute conferences, but we have not had a proper Sony Showcase. And the reason I'm bringing this up now is because Sony has this habit of announcing a showcase and having it be, or a state of play, and having it be 2 days later. So we don't even get to have fun fan theories or discuss what we think is going to be there. It's just it's announced, it's there, and obviously we bring it to you to talk about it post state of play. But if there is a Sony Showcase this month, I wanted to kind of get our thoughts on what we think is going to be there, what we're excited to be there. So we're already running a little long, so we won't take too much time on this, but we'll have some fun with this one. And the very first thing I do want to talk about with you, John, is will there be new hardware? Will these rumored Sony's, we talked about the handheld, we talked about the slim model.
Yeah.
There's rumors of a pro version of the PlayStation 5 already. Will any of these products be at the Sony Showcase?
I think you could see the Pro or a slim whatever at the showcase, and probably the detachable disc drive that's rumored. But I don't think we're going to see a handheld. I don't think we're going to see anything like that. It's going to be an iteration of an already existing piece of hardware there, because I think they're also going to want to use this showcase to try and push PSVR 2 a little bit. And if you start flooding the idea of hey, save your money for this shiny new thing in the future, it's going to inhibit people from wanting to spend on the thing that they want to promote now.
Very good point. Very good point. PSVR 2 is $500, so they can't be bringing in another piece of hardware.
Not yet. I think they could show the detachable thing, But also, I don't know. It's so interesting because typically these types of things are focused on just kind of new games and things. But like, it's been so long and there's so much to talk about, and they don't have an E3. And when else are you going to do it? That like, you know, give us a 2-hour show and have like a good 15 minutes to talk about a couple like hardware non-game things. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think you're right. The most likely thing is maybe a new SKU of a PlayStation 5 that is either cheaper, that matches the price without the disc, maybe.
Yeah.
And that they still have the overall package of like, we want you to buy into the VR and the console itself. Don't worry, there's no handheld, there's no other weird gimmicky things, you know, other than we might get new faceplates or controller colors.
I hope so.
You know, aside from that.
Yeah, I think, because the rumor is that this detachable disc drive is going to be alongside a new SKU of PlayStation that they're not going to have the disc drive ones anymore. It's just simply not going to be a thing. It's going to be the one digital version with the ability to buy this detachable thing. So I could easily see them, showing that off.
Yeah.
Yep, it'll be there.
All right, so now we can move into the software side of things, and I think it's a lock that Spider-Man 2 is going to be there. It's going to have a release date. It'll probably have a trailer. I don't think they'll show the gameplay off. I think that'll just come across in the trailer if he has any new abilities. We might get a tease of a new location than just New York City, but I think that is a lock.
I wrote lock next to it too. I think this is the time though that you tell everybody
Co-op?
Right. If there is co-op,
yes,
this is the time. I personally think it's going to be single player.
Yeah.
But I think if you show off a new trailer, detail that out and give us a date, state of play coming a month or so before. Yeah. You know, we didn't see Ragnarok gameplay till what? Like, it wasn't until like 2 months before at the earliest. So
yeah, and all the other big staples that are about to come out too as well, like Final Fantasy 16 will probably have some kind of presence there.
Yeah.
Street Fighter 6, which has been tied to Sony a bit, will also be there, and they're on the precipice of coming out. So I just think nothing crazy. Oh. Maybe pre-order bonuses, maybe some kind of like blurb, or
they don't need to show us any more Final Fantasy
DLC
16
plans. You know, like those games are immediately coming out.
Yeah.
They're very Sony branded. Well, Final Fantasy 16 especially, that they will make an appearance. But outside of those staples.
Mm-hmm.
What do we got? And let's start with the first party, Sony's first party offerings. Who's your most likely candidate to have a trailer here, a presence?
Sure. Highest on the list for me would be Naughty Dog showing off Last of Us Factions. I think it's time. It's been rumored forever. It seems to be pretty far along. We got some key art, a little while back of showing that big abandoned cruise ship. But I think this is the time you kind of show it off. That might even be the thing that they end the conference with, to show a nice, 10 minutes or so of, this is what it is. Because like we've been talking about, I don't think it's just a multiplayer thing. I think it's going to have a narrative implications. There's going to be a lot more to it. May even be a live service game, so they want to detail out how that all is going to be laid out. But I think it's time for us to see Factions. They keep talking about we have 10 live service games that are going to be hitting before 2026. I think this is going to be the first of them, the biggest of them, and I would be shocked if we don't see that here.
Yeah.
Do you concur?
I do. That is the only other announced project. Well, Wolverine, but we got to get Spider-Man 2 before Wolverine. So,
yes.
Other than that, yes, I definitely think that is next up. And then I also think Sony Bend, who has been pretty silent since Days Gone, which released a very long time ago at this point. They have to have their project. They rebranded their logo. I think they're ready to show whatever they're working on. I am assuming it is some open world game in the Decima engine of some kind.
Was Days Gone? Days Gone was Unreal.
Well, maybe they are doing an Unreal game, but I just have this feeling. That Decima with Death Stranding, with
Sony wants Decima to be kind of a thing. I think.
Yeah. And look at the results.
Look
at Forbidden West.
Yeah.
So I think that is the case. But what it will be, it could be anything. I don't.
We just know it's not Days Gone 2.
You never know. Zombies are always hot. So
yeah, but then they come out and said Sony didn't. They've said no to a Days Gone 2.
Correct. Yeah. That is publicly out there, but
it'd be weird.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
I don't know. So.
All right. Then I think it's time for our favorite little mascot to return as well, Nick. I think Astrobot needs to come back. And I think, based on what we've kind of know, I think it's going to be both VR and regular screen. I think they're going to figure out a way to do that. I think that's probably why they've been a little silent with the release of PSVR 2. They're kind of waiting to see, like,
it's a hybrid project.
It's a hybrid project. That's what I'm hoping. I think Rescue Mission VR was so incredibly good, and there's so many fresh ideas in there that they need to continue that thought process. But also, Playroom was such a runaway success that I think more people than ever want to play an Astrobot game. Everybody who bought a PS5 got to play that game if they were smart, or saw the 18,000 posts on Reddit to tell you to. But it's about time to at least see what Team Asobi's been working on. Astro's Playroom couldn't have been too intensive a project, or if anything, it kind of helps them. They probably had like a side team working on that while they're working on another game. But I think we see that it's going to be kind of a way to bolster the PSVR 2, as well as, I think try and brand him as like kind of their next Sackboy, right?
Sure. And do we think that Sony's few inaugural studios that have yet to show anything, I believe I have Haven and Firesprite written down, do we get an inkling of what they're working on?
That's a tough one. I wrote down Haven's game as well, but I don't know. I think Firesprite's more likely. I believe they've kind of led some breadcrumbs as to what they're working on. I can't remember. There's too many Fire teams now.
Right.
It's so hard to keep track.
Okay.
But yeah, this showcase is gonna be a big one, and so unless if it's just jam packed with third party shit, I think you need to kind of start laying some of this stuff out.
By big one, what do you think? You're saying it'll be long? It'll be an hour plus?
The showcase? Mm-hmm. I think so.
Okay.
I'm hoping so.
I
really hope so.
God, I've been so starved.
Yeah,
for a show like that.
I don't know, but yeah, they've really moved away from anything except a disembodied voice, which just lends itself to being a quick show. So it could be in that 45-minute range, but I don't know. Haven was purchased I feel like a couple weeks or months after it was formed, which wasn't too long ago. So to get the team up and running, Jade Raymond, I think they've shown some key art and things here and there, so they might be ready to go, but I don't know. I kind of think that they're not.
Okay.
I don't know why. I don't have reasons.
So did you have any more first-party things to say before we move into third parties?
So I have one off-the-wall one, and then one that I think, is pretty likely. I think we could see a Ghost of Tsushima 2 teaser.
Yes.
I don't think you're going to get a trailer or anything like that, but anytime you take, I think for sure they're working on it. It was a wild success for them.
Yeah.
And anytime you take a series that you've built the bones, right? We've built the character models, we've built the combat, we have all that. It's easier to get a sequel out the door. And I think Sucker Punch is a very talented team that's probably at least ready to show off a teaser with a year. Ghost of Tsushima 2025.
Yeah, it's about to turn 3 years old. It also added that multiplayer element that John and I played that is probably one of those live service elements that Sony says that they have. I wouldn't be surprised if Ghost of Tsushima Online is one of them. So yeah, it is definitely time. The Sucker Punch is a good studio. I would imagine that they're ready to say that the game is coming out next year.
Yeah, and then I actually have two more.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I think we're going to get the full-blown Twisted Metal show trailer with an accompanying announcement of a game coming as well.
Okay.
I think there's a specific reason that they only showed a teaser for the show like a week or two ago, and they showed the whole trailer for Gran Turismo because they wanted to save the Twisted Metal trailer for the showcase to be able to announce the game with it.
Yeah.
There's been rumors that the game's been worked on. It was originally being worked on by Lucid Games, who did Destruction All-Stars, and has since been moved on to, I believe, Firesprite. That might be the one thing I'm thinking of. Mm-hmm. But
Sony is just frothing at the mouth for that synergistic money that's out there, which they saw very, very well with The Last of Us. So,
do you think they spend time on cross-media projects like Twisted Metal Show? I know it's going to be tied to an actual game as part of your prediction, but do you think they touch on? They do have several other projects in the works.
No, I think it's kind of like a PSVR thing where we need to not announce so far ahead while there's other things coming. We're going to focus on Twisted Metal, because we still need a release date for that. So assuming maybe it's like later this summer.
Twisted Metal has a release date.
It does? What's the date?
It's July.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so they want to get through that and Gran Turismo, and then probably announce the next slate after those. Let the people focus on that stuff first. Would be my guess.
Yep, July 27th.
Okay.
So
it's kind of weirdly close to Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo's August, right? Huh, interesting. Now here's my off the wall one, and I was just thinking about it, but I think we get that weird little Loki game we were thinking of. I think we see it. I think we see Sony Santa Monica show up and be like, what? And you hear the God of War music and you go, what? And then you see a Loki and he's a little bit older and he's kind of off doing his own adventures. I think that's going to be my one, throwing some shit at the wall and hoping it sticks type of prediction. But I could see...
Too soon is mine.
You think it's too soon?
Yeah, too soon. When you think about even like Forbidden West, Burning Shores, from announcement to game... That was, it at least had been 11 months. Came out in February. It was announced at the Game Awards in December. Out in April. It was, God of War feels like a long. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. You're right.
6 months ago. I don't know. Here's my thought. I guess is because I just lost my train of thought. Crap. Sony. It is too early, but you're going to announce it to come out in next year, right? Miles Morales took 2 years for Insomniac to make, and that was a pretty beefy extra game. I think it could totally be like, hey, we're going to show it off now. It's something that's going to be ready next year, and then that would be, in that 1.5 to 2 year window. It doesn't have to. It's not going to be, it's not going to be another 30-hour thing, but it could be a 6 to 8 hour.
Which would be perfect.
Yeah, 6 to 8 hour experience that gets you back into that world, lets you play around with Loki, flesh out some more stuff with Anger Boda. It's interesting because they've said it's the end of the Norse saga, so I don't think there's really much opportunity for it to bridge some sort of narrative into a third one, but,
No, I think there's some things to wrap up and how that, we won't talk about what that game ended on.
Yeah,
I think so.
And God of War just... It's sold so much that I think, despite what they've kind of told us, Sony might be kind of going back and be like, "Yo, I know you said this is the end of the trilogy, but can we just do one more of this so it can sell another 30 million copies and then go on?" But I don't know. I love me some God of War.
Or give it to somebody else. Because we didn't mention that Uncharted game. I keep forgetting that little ad that we have the little girl raiding a tomb that Uncharted is probably coming back to. Yeah. Not by Naughty Dog, but it'll be handed off to...
I think it was Sony San Diego, wasn't it?
Yes, there you go. Yeah. Another studio that has not shown a game, but...
Well, they do the show.
Oh, okay.
That's their thing, but...
Okay. Yeah.
But you could easily have, multiple teams. So that's all I have for first party stuff.
All right, so let's move into third party really quick. It seems we're poised for the Mortal Kombat 12 announcement. It's been announced in investor meetings. It seems it's coming this year. I think the Sony Showcase will probably, if it's not at the Sony one, it'll be at the Xbox one or the other. Mm-hmm. So,
I'm trying to remember who, if any, they've kind of had ties to in the past.
They were pretty tied up in Hogwarts Legacy, which was Warner Brothers as well. So it could be more of that. So
and not to go back to Xbox, but third-party developers I think are scared of Xbox right now. They just games aren't being sold there. So if they're going to tie themselves to one of the two, unless if there's just boatloads of cash being thrown around, why not? Why not be Sony?
Sure. And the only other one I can think of is all the other ones they've teased before: Stellar Blade, Rise of Ronin, Like a Dragon. there's more in that franchise coming. The man who sold his name,
Erased his name.
And there's always a bit of a Japanese-centric thing here, like
Persona 6.
Yeah,
Is that what you're gonna
6.
say?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That they always obviously Sony has a great relationship with Japanese publishers, developers, and whatnot. So there will be a feature of their games here for sure.
Yeah. I agree, and it's hard. It's always hard to pick and choose third parties that are going to be at these things, but I think that's a good bet for those. The only other one I can think of is there has been. I know you don't listen to Sacred Symbols like I do, but they keep talking about this fucking Metal Gear Solid 3 remake that just seems to be around, and it's weird that why are they going to Metal Gear Solid 3 instead of 1? But what is it about 3, Nick? It's the first one in the timeline, right?
Right. Yeah.
So could they be trying to capitalize on what Capcom has done with the Resident Evil franchise? Like, we're going to start with this one, then we're going to just go chronologically and kind of rebrand. I don't know, but where there's smoke, there's fire. I truly believe in that, especially in the video game industry. And there's simply been so much and people get things wrong every once in a while. At first it was the Metal Gear Solid remake, rumor, and then it's like, well, no, now it's the Metal Gear Solid 3 rumor. And so, who knows? But I think there's Metal Gear something around, and with Konami. Giving the Silent Hill 2 license to somebody, I could see an easy partnership with Sony Bluepoint. We don't know what Bluepoint's next game is. Konami goes to Sony. Sony goes, yeah, we'll make something. We like Metal Gear in the past. Do you have somebody that can do it? Yeah, we have fucking Bluepoint. They've worked on Metal Gear in the past. They did all that. So let's give that to them. And I could see that being a thing.
Yeah.
Remakes are hot, man.
Yeah,
there's gonna be a remake of
so.
something. Like there will be at least one remake. But any pie in the sky, anything that you're just like, besides Persona 6, anything that you just would lose your mind if you saw Wolverine gameplay, but that would be weird.
Yeah. No, Metal Gear Solid 3 remake would be pretty cool. I would be pretty excited for that if it looked promising enough.
Yeah, it would if it was Bluepoint.
Yeah, knowing that Konami's gonna remake those games because they definitely could use it. But no, I don't know. All the ones are pretty much out there.
You dream so small, Nick.
Yeah,
you dream so small.
Maybe it's more Resident Evil plans from Capcom, but it seems too early.
You haven't even played Village. Shut up.
Yeah,
go play Village and then talk.
I'm trying to think like Capcom is a team that, but they got they kind of Exoprimal and Street Fighter 6, so their kind of hands are tied before they start going. Oh well, we're bringing. Dragon's Dogma or the next Monster Hunter World and all that stuff, but there's that potential. But no, I think most of my most anticipated games are out there. Yeah.
But there's no franchise you would love to be like, oh my god.
Do you have one?
I have two.
Okay.
I always have two. Bloodborne 2 and Nier Automata 2.
Oh yeah.
Those are the two. And as we've talked about on the show, I know I mentioned Nier Automata is too big of a franchise to be ignored. It's sold 7.5 million. 7.5 million. That's huge. That's more than all the Kingdom Hearts games. So it's just I think maybe, I don't know, but Bloodborne 2 is a meme at this point. I don't know, but yeah, those would be the two that I think I would just start taking off my shirt and running around the room.
Yeah, I think it's a pie in the sky. From Software's got Armored Core 6, so
yeah. Well, it'd have to be From Software.
And it seems like if anyone's going to get the next From Software exclusive announcement, it'll be Keeley.
So. True.
This summer, because that is kind of the thing, is we think that this summer will be a return to 4. Obviously Sony hasn't had a showcase in a while, but we do have an Xbox showcase. I 100% think the Phantom Liberty will be there.
Yeah.
And I think that Xbox, again, like we just talked about, will be kind of trying to build excitement on their platform. So a lot of third parties might show up there. The Ubisofts, EA, there's a Dragon Age game out there, so we might see them kind of just take the lead on a lot of the third party stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of indie games as well.
Cool.
God, do I want? I just want this announcement.
I'm gonna be,
dude,
if we get to June 1st and there's not, I'm finding where you live, John.
Because, Sony's got so much to talk about, so much to say.
And that's not including any PSVR 2 stuff, man. Like, Half-Life Alyx could be there, the next thing for, I don't know. But, Half-Life Alyx is becoming meme-worthy at this point as well, so.
Yeah, and it's all just, it's coming. Last of Us multiplayer, coming. Spider-Man 2, it's coming. Let's go. Let's see what's happening.
Yep.
It's been a while.
Don't Phil Spencer us, Sony.
Yeah, Microsoft's down,
Punch them while they're down.
Get them, they're wounded. Like, just drive a stake through their heart at this point.
Ooh, good Redfall reference.
So... you're kind of in the clear technically with the Activision Blizzard deal, so just do it. Finish it.
Put your foot on their throat.
The fatality screen's up. Input that code. Spider-Man 2, bam. Astro, bam.
I was just thinking,
dead.
They start the PlayStation conference with Mortal Kombat 2, and it just starts finish him, and it's Jim Ryan uppercutting Phil Spencer, and his head pops off. That's too dark.
I wish, but I wish they would take shots at each other like that. But again, like when we were talking about the Redfall review scores, and I texted you like, this is no fun. Like,
no,
this
it's
is
not
even a competition at this point. So it might be after June, and Microsoft has a good show. But
Nick also drafted that game.
yeah.
Understandably, though, I would have drafted that game if it was available for me.
Yeah,
but
so
you fell on the sword.
All right, so that is 6 things. We hope you enjoyed our longest show yet. It has been
really
quite, this will be the longest one, so it's good. There's a lot of video games to talk about, and I anticipate this is going to be the regular. As we said, games are coming out next week. Tears of the Kingdom will be out. That's going to just take all the oxygen out of the room. We'll probably have to talk about that.
Yeah, I still haven't even thought of, am I getting that day one? I should. I haven't even thought about it yet.
When the reviews come out, that'll change your tune.
Okay. Yeah.
When people say just how incredible it is, it's sitting at like a 98 or something stupid.
One can only dream.
So, and ear to the ground. It is time. Rumors themselves will be through the roof, so that'll be frustrating. But it's a good times. Good times. So, and we're happy to talk about it. Obviously.
Yes.
So. Anything to tease for next week? Do you think you'll have Resident Evil 4 done? I
think so. I'm on chapter 11. There's 16 chapters, right? So, I hope to have some time. I mean, weekends are, as my kids get older and older, more time is taken up. But, I think I can get through it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to hear your thoughts for the whole package, so that'll be fun. I am working on the Jedi Survivor Platinum. I'm going to get that. And then after that, I don't know what I'm doing. I might take a break.
Elden Ring. I'll give you Elden Ring.
Elden Ring. Right into Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Woo! And we will continue our list, of course. We'll have games 30 through 21. It is going to continue to get a little more interesting.
God, wouldn't that be funny if you beat Elden Ring before I did?
Well, if you gave me your copy, wouldn't I beat it before you?
If you like it. I'd be willing to make that sacrifice. Which will just lead into others from Software games.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Then I'll be like, Bloodborne 2 is my most anticipated game.
No, it's my most anticipated.
All right.
I like Miyazaki more.
So, speaking of that Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, I wasn't planning on the coincidence.
Yeah. I saw it. I was like,
I was just, Metal Gear's been on the brain, especially as we talk about our best games. As you've not heard yet, a Metal Gear game hasn't shown up yet, but a little tease, Metal Gear wills, because definitely one of my favorite.
The franchise is washed up, dude.
Yeah, not a lot to say about it now, but back in the day, it was a premier Kojima franchise, and one of my favorite things about Metal Gear Solid 3 was the James Bond-esque opening it had, and that included the song Snake Eater from Metal Gear Solid 3. This was sung by Cynthia Harrell and composed by Noriko Hibino. I butchered the shit out of that, I'm sure. So,
A for effort.
Really? Yeah. I don't know about that. But
you dishonored his family. How about that?
Great song. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you love the show. Thanks again for listening. We will be back next week with 6 more things. Bye.
See you guys.
but you're so supreme. I give my life, not for honor, but for you. In my time, there'll be no one else. Crime, it's the way I fly to you. I'm still in a dream, snake eater. Someday you go through the rain, and someday you feed on a tree frog. It's ordeal, the trial to survive.